Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. In this episode, we're going to take a look at Season 4 of Stranger Things. This will be due to drop on Netflix on the 27th of May. Well, the first half of the season. The second half comes at the beginning of July. Will it be as good as we hope? Well, we hope so. The Stranger Things creative team, though, say that it's going to be their Game of Thrones season, because they're going to be massively extending the runtime of each of the episodes. Does this bode well, given that Game of Thrones Season 8, well, it was appallingly bad, wasn't it? The only good thing is this is Season 4, but there is due to be a Season 5, so anything they really screw up too badly here can at least be retconned in the final season. Please God, don't make it bad. Anyway, we'll take a look at this article in Screen Rant and we'll discuss it. I shall whiz myself down into my usual corner and we'll look at the article. Here we go. Right, the headline there. Stranger Things Season 4 is like Game of Thrones, say creators. While shedding some more light on Stranger Things Season 4, the Duffer Brothers compare the latest instalment of the Netflix series to Game of Thrones. Whether this is a good thing or not remains to be seen. We know that early Game of Thrones was great, just as early Stranger Things was great. First two series I thought were excellent. I felt the third series, while still good, was a little bit weaker. And I'm not sure if that's because the children are growing up and becoming, I don't know, jaded a little bit. It's hard to say. Let's hope that they get this season right and everything's there. Anyway, going into the article. Stranger Things Season 4 is like Game of Thrones, according to creators Matt and Ross Duffer. Stranger Things became one of Netflix's hottest shows when Season 1 released in 2016. Good God, 6 years have passed already. My word. The fantasy horror series continued to be just as popular for Seasons 2 and 3, and the first half of Season 4 is premiering on Netflix on May the 27th, which is the same day as Obi-Wan. I wonder which ones will win. I'm going to make a guess and say that Stranger Things will outperform Obi-Wan. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, the second half of Stranger Things Season 4 will then premiere on July the 1st, of which I have already mentioned. So, based on the trailers for Stranger Things Season 4, Netflix has given audiences a pretty good idea of what the story will entail. The main group of characters will be split up this time around, with Hopper in Russia, Eleven and the Byers family in California, and the rest remaining in Hawkins, Indiana. The Mind Flayer will be more than likely be involved in the show's plot, but the story of Victor Creel, Robert Englund, looks also to be connected to the Upside Down, with one of the Stranger Things Season 4 trailers showing Dustin, Lucas, Nancy, Steve, Max and Robin investigating the abandoned Creel house. Yeah, and I saw Robert Englund recently in a couple of films, strangely enough. The very first Nightmare, and he was very dark in that. Darker in that than any of the others. I think as it went on, he got more light-eyed. Still a murderer, but was more wisecracky. And also, what was the other thing I watched recently with Jared Leto? Urban Legend. That had Robert Englund in it as well. So I do like him as an actor, but he tends to play very similar roles, you know. So I'm presuming he'll have that sort of creepy role in this, but we shall see. Anyway, moving back into the article, otherwise I keep going off at tangents. While Stranger Things will still have plenty of twists and turns for audiences come May, the Duffer Brothers have shed a bit more light on the season with an interview with Deadline. Matt Duffer compared the season to Game of Thrones, a show that was notorious for having interwoven storylines for characters spread out all over the world. Ross Duffer added that Season 4 is massive in regards to its story, with Stranger Things finally starting to give audiences some long-awaited answers. Both comments from the Duffer Brothers can be read below, and we will do that. So let's put them there. So first of all, Matt, we kind of jokingly call it our Game of Thrones season because it's so spread out. So I think that's what's unique, or most unique, about the season. Joyce and the Byers family to have left at the end of season 3. They are in California. We've always wanted to have that like ET-esque suburban aesthetic, which we finally got to do this year in the desert. And then we have Hopper in Russia. And then, of course, we have a group that remain in Hawkins. So we have these 3 storylines, all are connected and all kind of interwoven together, but it's just very different tones. And by dispersing them in space, you can tell 3 different stories. And you can interweave the 3, but you can actually have 3 narratives, which, as any good writer would do, would then bring them all together at the end. And so I think that's probably what's going to happen. But then you can have as the 3 narratives go along, they will be interlinked. If you get it right, you create a fantastic story. You create a very strong framework, and you can hang a lot of stuff off that, which then sets up for season 5. And I think if it's done right, it will be brilliant. It's so easy to get this wrong and leave loose threads, and if things can get left hanging and then forgotten about. So it's very important that you don't leave loose threads, but we shall wait and see. Ross Duffer, the brother of Matt, he says, we didn't know how big the season was going to get, and we didn't even realise until we were about halfway through, just in terms of how much story that we wanted to tell this season. Game of Thrones is one thing with reference, but also for us really it's about its revelations, in that we really wanted to start giving the audience some answers. Yes, you keep building up and getting the mystery bigger and bigger and bigger, and you don't want to end a huge set of mysteries in the last episode of the last season, because otherwise it's a bit too much like, and then he woke up. You need to complete some arcs early. Even some slightly larger arcs need to be left early, and some of the smaller ones you can leave right to the end. It's good storytelling, but of course your main arc, you do bring the denouement of that has to be at the end. But yeah, I mean, otherwise you can't have it all crammed into the last 5 minutes of the last episode of the last series. Otherwise, it's a crash and burn waiting to happen. But, we sit there, oh, good Lord, look at them there. Anyway, since the popularity behind Stranger Things grows with each instalment, Netflix has consistently made each season bigger than the last. Game of Thrones was truly a massive show in terms of story and production, so the Duffer Brothers comparison really speaks to the scale of season 4. However, it's important that Stranger Things maintains its compelling narrative rather than focusing exclusively on CGI-heavy action set pieces. Game of Thrones no doubt excelled at bringing audience exciting battle and action, but later seasons put that ahead of the show's actual story. Game of Thrones Season 8 was heavily criticised by fans and critics. It was awful. We all know it was awful. It was just awful. I don't even want to go into it. But thankfully, it sounds like the Duffer Brothers are only comparing their series to Game of Thrones regarding its characters being split up and the scale of the project. That said, Duffer Brothers will have a tough task of sticking the landing soon enough. Stranger Things Season 5 will be the show's last, which means Season 4 will need to start wrapping up certain storylines to lead into the final season. I've already mentioned that. Stranger Things Season 4 will be the longest instalment yet, with each episode being over an hour long, so thankfully viewers will have a bit more of the Netflix series to enjoy before the end. And I cannot wait to see this. When you are writing episodes that start getting over an hour, you are moving into film length. There was a guy called Dennis Spooner. He was a writer of many years standing. He wrote for Doctor Who, The Avengers, that's the 1960s one with John Steed, not Iron Man. Many, many series. If you look back, he wrote for just about everyone, sort of in the 60s, 70s, even the early 80s. And he said, when you write for television, you write a U. So you start big, it then slows down halfway through the episode, and then you come back up at the end for your finale. When you write for film, you have to write in a W format. So you start big, you come down, You have a little mid-film up, and you come down, and then you finish big. And it's all to do with pacing. It says, and it's, if you're doing it in a half-hour format for television, it's very easy, because it's 5 minutes at the beginning is your big, is your intro. Given a half hour show is basically, say, 25 minutes of action. It's your big, it's your slow down, it's your narrative, and then it's your big finish, and you're out. It says when a film and you're talking 90 minutes, you do a W. It says if you're talking 2 hours, it's a W with an extra bump in the middle. This, if it's going to be in this format, it's going to be nearer the film format, which means you can spend more time in character development. You're not having to shove and chivvy the story along quite so quickly. So you can introduce more elements to the story. You can have a mid-episode bump. And it makes for more satisfying watching. It's formulaic, but the formula works. Now, if they're talking over an hour, and they're talking just about an hour, then you're sort of stretching a long television episode. If you start getting to an hour and 10 minutes, then you're talking short film, and it's that balance. But I think if they do the short film set and do the beginning, middle, end with the bump in the middle, you're going to have a very deeply satisfying episode. Anyway, I'm going to come up and we'll round the video off. I didn't mean to go on this long. Anyway, here we go. Well, come the 27th of May, we shall find out. Given that they're older, more experienced, given that they have a full, deeper understanding of their characters, given that the whole of the production team will be far more experienced in actually rounding out this, and given that the writers will be aware of what went wrong with Game of Thrones, I don't really foresee too many problems. I think the longer episodes, if done correctly, will give us a much more satisfying story. And I don't feel they're going to be in the rush to get out the door quickly with this. So I am... You've got to manage your expectations, of course, but my enthusiasm is such that, yeah, I'm trying to temper my my optimism, but actually no, I'm still very optimistic that this will be good, and that I'm still very enthusiastic to see it, and I'm pretty sure most people are. So, like I say, we're 7 weeks away or so. Yeah, let's just hope that all becomes clear and all becomes, very well. Please don't cock this up. I'm sure they won't. But we shall find out. If anything else comes up, if I get any other storylines come up, I shall certainly do a video about them. But until that happens, I shall leave this one alone now. If you like what you see and hear on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications for any future output. Leave a like, leave a comment. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.